Yeah, yeah.
Coming up next on Mental Health Matters with Marty, November is Men's Health and Wellness Month. But what about Dad? Stay tuned. What's happening, everybody? Hey, it's me, it's Martina Sellers, your mental health hygienist, coming to you live and in living color. Y'all know how we do it here in Southern California, where the sun is always shining. And as they say, it never rains in Southern California. We're so glad that you're here today. Let us know that you're listening. What's up, everybody? We're so glad to see you. Yes, yes, yes. How you feeling? And how are you living? As we say each time when we come to Mental Health Matters with Marty and this show and this program, what is this program about? Mental Health Matters with Marty is a psychoeducational program that is geared to supporting your mental health and wellness journey in communities of color where oftentimes access, knowledge, and having the available resources are not always available, or we don't even always know about them. However, we are not a substitute. Hear me when I say this. We are not a substitute for your mental health and wellness. If you do need to see a therapist or a psychologist or someone, please, please, please do that and do it responsibly. And if you're experiencing any type of emergency, mental health or psychiatric emergency, please go to your nearest urgent care and or hospital for treatment. But we are a supplement. We are part of the treatment plan, but we are not a substitute for your mental health, wellness, and journey. Now, how do you stay in contact? How do you interact with us? How do we see your comments? We want to see your comments. And how do you do that? Two ways of doing that, 1 and 2. The first way that you can do it is by reaching out to us on the Mental Health Matters with Marty Facebook page or on the Marcel Media Group YouTube channel. Those are the two ways. If you are on our personal pages, unfortunately, I will not see that. And I will see it later, but I will not be able to see it during the show. So therefore, if you want to make some comments, you want us to see your feedback and hear your feedback and read your comments, please look at the comments below and check out our Mental Health Matters with Marty page and our Marcel Media Group page with that as well. Hope you are doing well. Can you believe we are in November? Auntie, hello, how are you? Glad that you're joining us. Hey, I'll see you in a few days. LaDon, what's going on? Man, stay tuned because this episode is all for you, man. I should have brought you on, but this episode is for you, man. So glad that you're on here. Now, as we are talking about Men's Wellness Month, I want to do a special series for the whole month of November and maybe even going into December because we never talk about dads. Even on Father's Day, sometimes our parade gets rained on because moms can trump dads even on Father's Day. And oftentimes we never say, what about dad? What about dad's mental health? What about dad's physical health? What about dad's spiritual health? What about dad's financial health? We want to talk about all these things in the month of November, specifically honing in on dad's mental health. Did you know that 1 in 10 men experience paternal postpartum depression? What is that? Just like maternal postpartum depression, 1 in every 10 men definitely have postpartum, paternal postpartum depression. Mark, good to see you. Brother, I'm going to call you after the show. And too often, fathers, we go unnoticed. We think that fathers are supposed to bear the weight of this. Can we also eliminate the title of deadbeat dad? Come on. Too many of us who are out here trying to do the work, who are trying to be great fathers, who are trying to do the right thing, have been labeled and mislabeled as deadbeat dads because too often we're not given the opportunity, or we have to fight to be a dad. Listen, no parent should have to fight to be a parent. But do we need support? Do we need to have the right tools in order how to be an effective parent? Most definitely. See, I was a young father. I was a father by the age of 23. I graduated from UC Berkeley and was about to be a father. I was in law school, and I chose to make the decision to come out of law school because I was afraid of, and I did not want to be a part of the stereotype of being a deadbeat dad. And so with that, do I regret it? By no means. I have 3 amazing children. My daughter, Raven. Yes. Good evening, Paula. My son, Christian, and my daughter, Tony. Love them to death. Would not change anything. Did I do everything right as a young dad? By no means, no. I didn't. Because I was struggling with my own concept of what real fatherhood was like. And I'm so glad that we're doing this episode and this series on What About Dad? When I look at my own father, and it's no secret, y'all, that I grew up in a domestic violent household. However, I believe that my father suffered with his own mental health depression. It's no secret that my dad was a great provider, and he was full of emotions. Oftentimes, we saw the wrong end of those emotions because he did not have effective coping skills. He did not know his own father. So oftentimes he blamed himself or blamed others. And his whole thing was, at least you know your dad. I'm like, yeah, I do know my dad, but I want to know a better version of my dad. I want to know a better version of that man who was scared, who didn't know how to do anything but explode. And now that I'm a therapist, I understand a lot of his own explosions was based in depression. LaDon, I'm grateful for this as well, my brother, because you've been on the show and we talked about there was the only thing that you knew how to be was as a father was an angry black man. And we're here today to change the narrative of that. Why? Because we too as dads, we need help. What about dad? What about dad's emotions? What about dad's fears? What about dad's insecurities? What about dad being a dad? And how do you be an effective dad if you haven't seen an effective role model placed before you? And when you didn't grow up in possibly the best homes? When can I even say this? I'm going to say it because this is what my experience was. Even when the church knew and they said, well, he's a good provider. I'm not questioning the provisions. I'm questioning the emotional fortitude. I'm questioning the psychological fortitude that sometimes we as fathers and we as black fathers don't always have. Where do we go to when we're hurting? Who do we go to when we're depressed? Who do we go to when we need help? Well, I'm so glad that you asked those questions. And I'm so glad to have with us tonight. And I want you guys to invite dads. Do me a favor. Invite dads into this conversation. Invite dads, call some fathers on the phone right now today. Call up your uncle, call your brother, call your sons, call your cousins, call your nephews, call every dad, every male that you know, every expecting father, and every young man that we know. And I can't even say young man anymore because we got some old dads, old folk being dads. That's a whole nother conversation. Call and invite them into this because this is an important conversation we're going to be having. And I'm so grateful for our guest tonight. This is his first time on the Mental Health Matters with Marty show, but it will not, I'm here to tell you, it will not be his last. LaDon, you're going to be blessed by him. He's an author. He's a professor. He is just a solid brother who has his PhD. He's written books. He's on this health and wellness for men because we're the ones who always push our health and wellness, mental health, physical health, spiritual health. We put it on the back burner because we're too afraid to say, I'm not okay. So welcome and please bring to us for the very first time, but I can tell y'all right now, not the last time, for the first time, welcome Dr. Mike Coleman. Dr. Coleman.
Hey there, Marty. How are you tonight?
Listen, I'm so excited that you are on the show tonight, and I hope you heard my what I like to call my soliloquy and what I talked about with that. Hey, what's going on, Thomas? Because first and foremost, hearing that, there's so many of us who are dads who strive and desire. I believe that 99.9% of us want to be great dads. However, I do believe that oftentimes we don't have the tools, the support, the rallying behind us that we can be great dads. And the expectation, an unspoken expectation, oftentimes the bar is too high and we get, can I say this, intimidated? Because, we as men have the fight, fear, or flight mentality. And oftentimes we know how to run and we know how to run fast. So talk to us, Dr. Coleman, about that. And then I want you to introduce yourself and share with the audience all the amazing things that you do.
Well, thank you so much. And the check is in the mail for that tremendous endorsement. First and foremost, before we do anything else, let's give ourselves a break.
Yes.
Stop letting everyone set the bar for us. What looks like a good dad to me is different than what's a good dad for you. And
wow,
just like you, I had a father who struggled with mental health issues that had to go through shock therapy. But somehow or another, he raised, brought seven kids through and up, and we all went to college.
Wow.
But it was tough. I mean, I saw some of the worst sides of that, and I also saw someone who was dealing with some fears that he didn't know how to reconcile.
Yes.
I saw a person whose society wouldn't allow him to be what he was capable of because he's a black man, and a black man couldn't do some of the things that he wanted to do. So, so oftentimes we are, in spite of our greatest desires, there are societal things that work against us, and as sometimes as we know as men, we'll go into the ring of life where we're out there fighting hard to make our claim, to get a stake, to just survive in that arena. And the last thing that we want, and unfortunately it happens more often than not, when we come home, we come to our corner to get reinforced, and then our corner man is stabbing us in the spleen.
Right. There's a fight there. Yes.
And so part of it is helping the people around us not becoming silent enemies in battles that we need to fight. I
agree. Dr. Gordon, I say this all the time. I say that too often. Too many of us, I'm going to put it into the context of the theme, dads are secretly suffering in silence in the shadow of shame. Yeah,
Yes.
and we know from a mental health perspective that when we begin to isolate and all of those
Hmm.
things, those are clear signs of depression, and because out of shame, and so we isolate, we go to our corner, and depression in men, especially dads, looks totally different than depression in women. So we become irritable. We become
Yes.
angry. We
Yes.
become, very loud because
Yes.
we are not heard and we're not seen and we're not oftentimes, we're felt as if we're not valued. And that
Yes.
pushes us in those dark corners.
And really, for what we begin to learn over a course of time is that
Mm-hmm.
uh, for men, unfortunately, anger or being aggressive is one of the few emotions or behaviors that
Yes.
in a general sense, society will allow us to do.
Right.
However, for African American men, if we're a little bit too aggressive, then
Right.
there's a whole institution designed to
Yep.
contain that,
Come,
to control us. And so
talk, talk.
it's a catch 22
It
that we
is.
exist with. But we still have to continue to push and try and figure out more effective ways to do what needs to be done and stop
Absolutely.
letting other people script
Define
the
us.
agenda for us.
Dr. Coleman, you're talking my language. I love it. I love it. I'm so excited. Listen, for those who don't know who you are, give us a little bit of your extensive pedigree and all the wonderful things that you've done and your dossier in that regards.
So a couple of things I've done. I've been in business for a number of years. I'm the seventh child of the seventh child. So
Oh my
the youngest
goodness.
of five boys. And when I was in business for quite some time, but I was concerned about my brothers. I was always concerned about my
Mm-hmm.
brothers because in business, in the retail world where I worked, I would always see these young men start to become very successful, and they're
Okay.
doing well, and then all of a sudden, life is good, and then all of a sudden it's like a fly that
Right.
hits the windshield of a speeding car. We just
Right.
splat. We just something happens. We're gone. And so I began to make my mission of how do we become better? How do we do a better
Mm-hmm.
job?
Love that.
And
Love it.
so I started working, and one of the things I immediately realized is that for men,
Mm-hmm.
whenever something is bothering us, more
Mm-hmm.
often than not, somewhere in the arena of that irritant, it's mom,
Mm.
it's our girlfriend, it's our spouse,
Mm.
it's our daughter,
Mm.
it's our auntie, it's a
Yes.
female at work, and it's not necessarily their fault. I'm not saying it's
Mm-hmm.
necessarily their fault. It's just that they're because of the way that men think versus the way that
Yes.
women think.
Yes.
Joel Gray said, "Men are from Mars, women are from
Mars and
Venus."
went for Venus.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and when I was teaching anger management classes, I used to always say that men are when we're born, we know one language. We tune into a signal that's an AM signal. Okay,
Mm.
women when they're born, they're tuned into an FM signal, and as
Mm-hmm.
we learn, we learn to receive another signal. Okay, we learn to receive another signal, but there are times, as you know, Marty, when we get stressed out, when we get excited in those situations, what happens? We go to our native language.
Yes.
We for men, that's like, okay, I'm communicating that there's a problem here, and I'm communicating it in an AM signal,
And if
and,
right,
you, and
right.
your significant other, she's over there trying to hear, but she's tuning that she's saying in FM, hey, I'm not hearing what you're saying, and all of a sudden, what do you do when someone can't doesn't hear you? We raise the
Mm-hmm.
volume,
Yes.
but you're yelling, and they're not hearing you. It's like when someone we meet someone who speaks, let's say Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish.
Right.
Well, what happens? They're talking to me, and I begin to say, "Hey, let me," and like
Right.
that's
We
gonna make
think
a difference for them understanding.
We increase our volume thinking that they're going to
Yes,
understand us better. I
yes,
love that AM and FM frequency, because what happens is, as we're continuing speaking the AM, and we're distancing ourselves because communication is getting worse.
yes,
Now we both hear static. And the
yes,
static gets louder than what the original conversation was, because we're out of frequency with each other, and then it just becomes very tumultuous in the relationship, and so then we're labeled as, again, this angry, this oppositional, this defiant, this conduct disorder, this one who needs all these extra classes and all that, and so we're frustrated, and then too often I believe that we start to buy in, like you were saying, into those labels, because it's easier to make you just say, if
yes,
you think I'm crazy, let me just show you what crazy really is.
yes, yes, yes,
And it hurts all of
absolutely.
us in the long. Yes. Yes.
And so I'm seeing that in the business world, and seeing what was
Mm-hmm.
happening to men and fathers, I began a quest of trying to figure out ways to help men. And again, as I said, trying to understand if the source of one of our irritants is coming from our sisters, and not that it's their fault. I'm
Right.
not,
Right.
please, I'm not
No.
saying it's anyone's fault. It's just a fact. Let's just deal with the fact.
We're just identifying triggers right now. That's all. We're just saying,
Bingo.
listen, these are the triggers. We're not blaming fault, because what I'm doing, even in my sessions, I was like, okay, let's talk about the triggers. And
Yes.
I don't care how ridiculous they are. I don't care how petty you might, but we still need to list them all out so that we get a
Yes.
better understanding of why we're being triggered, and what are the
Yes.
triggers, and then we can go into the why. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So back around 2000, I began working with a group out of Louisville called the
Mm-hmm.
Professional Woman Network. And I went, and again, they were gracious enough to allow me in to their
Mm-hmm.
circle, because I wanted to begin to understand, okay, these women that are experiencing violence at the hands of men, why? I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
begin to hear their story organically, no
Mm-hmm.
judgments, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to get to a place. I wanted to get to a place where they would feel comfortable enough to trust me,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes a while for folks to let their guard down, men or women. It just takes a while for you to really let your guard down. So I began
Mm-hmm.
working with that group, and over the years, I've published and co-authored
Mm-hmm.
many books. A couple of them, for example,
Yes.
uh, a boys to men, a guide for African American boys, um, raising healthy kids in an unhealthy world.
Wow.
Um, Here's
Love
another
that.
one: A Young Man's Guide to Personal Success, where I talked about, for young men, talked about the difference between assertiveness versus aggressiveness, and
Wow.
how that plays out. And many of those chapters and those articles were written towards helping women understand how to deal with boys, how to deal with
Right.
these young men,
Right.
and not to fall into some of those traps that they fall
Mm-hmm.
into. So then, going along, as I evolved into my
Mm-hmm.
journey,
Mm-hmm.
I decided to go and pursue a PhD. And initially, I started my
Love
journey
it.
trying to understand what's the financial impact of male
Ooh.
depression on the family.
So, wait, wait.
That
I don't want to skip past that, because we don't realize. I was looking at just on NAMI today, and it talks about how dad's emotions affect the entire family,
yes,
whether he's
yes,
in the house or out the house. Dad's
yes.
emotions still do affect the entire family. And I love that. What is the financial cost of dad's depression? That's good. That
hmm
is so
And,
good.
and so I began down that journey, and I had a slight disruption along the way. A year into my
Mm-hmm.
my studies, I ended up having to have open heart surgery,
Oh my
and
goodness.
so, as you know, sometimes things interrupt our education. Be it kids,
Yes, yes.
so that caused me to change my focus a little bit, because again, I wanted to
Wow.
understand, why, when I was going through my journey, why more men were not helping other men get through
Right.
this terrible disease, heart disease. And heart disease affects not just the person; it destroys families.
Yes,
It
it does.
destroys
Yes, it
families,
does.
and
Yes, it
and
does.
like many people, we were. My family, the men in my family were dying from heart disease, and so
Wow.
I changed my focus and have
Okay.
dedicated a lot of my energy towards issues that affect men's health through the
Mm-hmm.
heart,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other things that come into play there, and it's just been a phenomenal journey along the way. So
Love
that's
that.
just a sliver of some of the things I do. I also am a financial consultant. Work very closely with helping people develop businesses and nonprofits.
Wow.
I spend. I've also spent some time helping men who have experienced the effects of human trafficking on their family.
Mm.
Because
Ooh.
again, when we talk about human trafficking,
We never talk
rightly
about the
so,
male.
it's the women. But listen,
Yes.
first of all, there's a lot
Yes.
of men that get caught up in that. There's a lot of boys get
Yes.
caught up in that. But more
Yes.
importantly, imagine what's the most frustrating thing for a dad when his baby's gone, when
My
his
God.
child has been taken and he has no resources,
Mm-hmm.
and and
Mm-hmm.
and, and so helping with that,
And
and
I love it because now we're also dealing with the guilt and the feelings
yes,
of inadequacy as a father, as a man.
yes,
A man is supposed to be the protector of his family. And the one
yes,
thing that I was supposed to be deemed to do as society, now my husband is a heart. Hey, Tanya, good to see you. Thank you for sharing that, Tanya, because that being a heart patient, we have to look at heart disease in Black men, and
yes,
that alone, now you have a father, a husband who has a heart disease, and how that affects. So now this strong virile man is feeling inadequate, weak, and vulnerable. So we
yes,
have to deal with the psychological impact that that has as well, because this has been carried to us over for generations and years of these various roles, and we need to have honest conversations about what really is the role of a dad. What really is the role of
absolutely,
a dad in the family, especially a
yes,
modern dad? Because listen, you live in Texas, I'm out here in California. There's no way that a father can on one income. Back in the day, dad could be the provider
hmm
like that, right?
hmm
But today, in some of these large cities, urban cities that we're in now, one income is not doing it.
right, right,
It's not.
and and more importantly, Marty, like you said, what the dad that you are at when you got a 2 year old is not the same
Right.
dad that you are when you've got an 18 year
Sure
old,
not. Sure not.
and it's not the same dad that you are when suddenly you're also a grandparent.
That's right. That's
So
right.
those roles evolve, and we have to understand that just because I could be a boss when I had a 2 year old in the house and I could say, do this,
Right.
do that, pick up this, pick up that. It don't work necessarily at different stages. You have to change. We have to evolve. We have to learn.
Yes,
We have to learn to evolve, and hopefully our families allow us to evolve
that's good.
because
Because,
yeah,
yeah, Dr. Mike, I have three kids. I have a 31-year-old, a 23
mhm,
year old, and please don't judge me. I have a 5-year old.
no judgments here. No judgments here.
I hear you. I hear you. But even my older children, they're just like, you're not the same dad. I'm like, I've evolved.
Yeah.
You know, I hope I'm better. So my daughter, who's the older one, she goes, well, I prepared the rest of them because you made all your mistakes on me. I love it. Uh, Ladonza says, I tried to be the dad I didn't have for my sons. That's beautiful. And I think for so many of us, I know that was what I tried to do with my own children.
hmm
And I had to even come to the realization that in some ways, my dad did the best he could. Now, did I
Bingo.
want him to do more? Of course, I wanted him to do more, and I had to come to the radical acceptance that my father had an untreated mental health disorder, and that he tried to do the best he could. Did I want him to do more? Of course. But I then had to also learn to accept the good, the bad, and the indifferent. But I got to choose what qualities I wanted to bring out in my father, in myself. And I got to starve those negative ones that I didn't want. And when I finally got to embrace that, and y'all, I wish I could say I embraced it in my 30s and 40s. I didn't embrace that till I was in my 50s. When I finally embraced that, the burden and that I was carrying for all those years began to lift and release. And then I start to be proud of myself. But Dr. Coleman, talk to us about how do we get fathers? How do we get these dads to come to some of these realizations, come to these radical acceptance about their own fathers and then their role as a father?
And again, the first thing, if we can get our men, if we can just stop letting everyone else paint the picture of what we're supposed to be.
Love that.
Stop letting others. Now it doesn't mean you don't listen. It doesn't mean that you don't take feedback. But stop letting everyone else define you. Number one, and number two, don't run from your fear. Don't run from the things that you're afraid of. Respect it, and then work through it. When we see a tornado, we don't stick our head in the sand. No, we respect the force that's coming at us, and we make proper provisions. So life is always throwing storms at us.
Doc, you're messing me up tonight because that's so powerful. You're absolutely right. I love that you said stop allowing others to define us and put unrealistic expectations on us. Brilliant. The second one, I love that. Don't run from your fears.
Yeah.
But do a proper assessment of them so that you can face them head on. That's good.
Marty, because think about it. What happens when we get fear? What do we get? We get turbocharged with what?
Yes.
We get turbocharged, and we can be crazy, woolly, just going spinning out of control.
Right.
We can harness that, boom, and do what we need to do. And sometimes in that space, when we are dealing with that. We also have to allow some input from some other sources.
Yes.
There's no weakness. There's no weakness in hearing the opinion of our spouse, our kids, our significant others. We still know what we're going to do. We still know what we're going to do, but sometimes we've got to take that information from other people. The popular example always when we think about the captain, the man as the captain of the ship. But the captain of the Titanic didn't hear that person up in the crow's nest and said, "Hey, there's something out there."
He didn't listen to wise counsel.
Yeah. And one of the things that we also think about, and I want to come back to it because you really hit on a beautiful point. When we as men, we get caught up in the past with revisionism, with what our dad did or did not do. And you're right, Dad probably made the best decision that he could at the time. And unfortunately, sometimes when a man is making those decisions, he can't explain it to a child in a way that child's going to understand. So now it doesn't mean that you don't let them in. You try to let them in, but a child should not. Don't expect a child to see things the same way that a man sees them or a parent sees them. And that, that's for moms too. We have to look at things a little bit different. Now,
a lot different.
We're always trying to educate and give our kids some exposure to the decisions that we have to make. But
Mm-hmm.
let's face it, those are our decisions to make. We have we need to make that decision, and sometimes that means that I hear you talking. I understand and I respect what you're saying. I just can't use that right now for what I've got to consider.
Yes, yes. And Dr. Mike, can we go here too? Even when a dad may not be physically in the house, also moms, you cannot make that 9, 10, 11-year old now the man of the house.
Oh
He
my
has no
goodness.
idea listen. He has no idea how to be a boy, let alone a man. I
You
had a
know the.
client who was
Hmm.
struggling because when his dad left the home, he was 10 years old, and his mother came to me and said, "You are now the man of the house." Scarred
Yeah.
him. His mother
Yeah.
even expected him to discipline her when she messed up. I'm like, "But
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
10.
Yeah. Yeah.
You barely
Yeah.
knew how to
Yeah.
write your name."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we've robbed them of that, and
Yes.
then also when you say that to a 10-year-old, but then when that 10-year-old becomes 16 or 17 and he's smelling himself,
Yes.
so he's starting to smell himself a little bit, and now he's talking back and he's trying to assert. Well, you told me to
To
be
be the
assertive. You
man.
told me,
Yes.
and this is
Yes.
what I think a man does. This is what this
Yes.
I'm developing my perception of a man from all the negative things that you've been spewing out
That's right.
about
That's
my
right.
dad, about other men,
Yes.
and so
And you're saying something too. I think that's very important. We also have to be careful about the words that we spew out as well.
yes,
But when
yes,
we say your father's no good, you're just like him. You're no
mm-hmm,
good. He's reckless. He's shiftless. You just like him. You look just like him. So we are now pounding negativity and really, because we have the power. Most of what I do in my therapy session is rewiring the brain,
mm-hmm,
changing the neuroplasticity of the mindset so it goes a different way. So we're not thinking, I would say it this way: stop the stinking thinking. So we're trying to rewire the negative and the maladaptive thoughts into a way that we're now thinking more positive. But if that's been beaten into you for 5, 10, 15 years, it doesn't change overnight.
no, it
It
can't,
definitely doesn't change overnight. Mm-mm.
and
And
and,
so we
and
have to
so
speak life into our dads, our husbands, our sons, our uncles, our fathers, our brothers, even when we mess up.
yes, and our dear brother Danny Ross was a counselor here in the Dallas area, and that's one of the things that we talk about, the messages that we
You
carry,
know, Danny,
yeah. Danny,
listen.
Danny and I met the very first day that I was beginning my PhD program at Texas Women's University. That's
Doc,
that.
were you at Danny's when he did the messages
Yes,
at his at the community center?
I was not at that one. I was not at
Okay.
the most recent one,
I
but
flew out to support Danny and
uh huh,
surprised him at that.
uh
So
huh,
that's
uh huh.
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, it's
Doc, we love
amazing
Danny.
what. Yes, the things that we keep pulling together, and again
Yes,
those messages that we keep, and
yes,
and that revisionism that we're constantly going through,
yes,
um,
yes.
and and women. Um, Women sometimes, and I shouldn't say, well, I will say women. One of the things that men are sometimes challenged with, if
Mm-hmm.
we use the sports analogy,
Mm-hmm.
um, everyone wants to be like Michael Jordan hitting the game-winning
Mm-hmm.
shot at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the game. We all
Mm-hmm.
want that, but as Mike said in the commercials, he missed a lot more of those last-minute shots than he
Then he
made.
made. Mm-hmm.
Uh, but the thing was, he had a supportive system that said, "Mike,
Yes.
take the last shot," and if he missed, they weren't pulling him out of the game and saying you're benched.
Yes.
They said, "Get back in there and do it again."
They
Get
gave
back
him
in there and
another
do it again.
opportunity. Yes.
Keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop. And so sometimes when a guy takes that shot, when a man's making a decision, he's not always going to be right. It's not always going to pan out the way that we hope. But don't take that power away from him. Educate. Go to the tapes and say,
yes,
yeah, we didn't hit it that time, so let's figure out what we did wrong. And fellas, don't be so ignorant and obtuse and that you can't stop to hear some of that feedback.
That's good.
You know, take the feedback. It's only there to help you. It's only there to help you.
Like my grandmother would say, we chew the meat and spit out the bones. You chew the meat, those things that can be applicable, that's going to help to enhance your life. That's what we do, because too often men are left to figure things out on their own, especially when it comes to fatherhood. So we're already battling I don't know. Well, I can't make myself look stupid. Well, I can't make them think that I know that I don't know what I'm doing. But when we don't, and so we have to create, and we've been on this whole thing about creating safe environments for men, for fathers to say, I'm not okay. Brother, I need help. I need your support. What are you doing? Can we talk? What's going on? Because we just don't have those safe zones and safety nets to be able to do that. And it's so needed. So Dr. Mike, I'm glad that you're on to share with us. We can create those things because we have to be able to support. And I love it. We got to be able to get back in the game and keep trying for that 3-point shot into the game buzzer shooter in life.
Yes, we do.
I love that.
One of the things, as you know, as a therapist, what's the one thing that all therapists have to have? They have to have 1 or 2 or 3 professional peers that they can go to to get refreshed, to get some recovery.
Yes.
And so men, you need to have those partners that are going to shoot straight with you. That will allow you to come and be who you are. Allow you to be vulnerable and help you get back in the game.
Yes.
But if you don't have that, if you don't have that, you're never going to get to the level that you are. And don't think for a minute. Don't think just because you're good at something that you don't need feedback, that you don't need coaching, that you don't need feedback. How many shooting coaches does Michael Jordan have?
Yeah, a ton.
Right? Now he's the best, but how many? He still has a shooting coach.
Right.
So fellas, it's not. There's nothing weak or sissified about getting advice from someone else who understands and studies fatherhood, who studies life, who studies relationships. Get the feedback, and make the course corrections. Adjust your game.
That's good.
So you can be successful.
So since you say that, Dr. Coleman, can we go down this area of healthy coping skills and healthy methods versus unhealthy methods in just coping and dealing with life as a whole? What could be some healthy versus unhealthy methods of coping and dealing with our own mental health or challenges that we have as dads in this during this time?
Sure. Well, I mean, one of the things is moderation, not excess. 1 drink is good. 4 drinks, not so good.
Right. That's good. Moderation.
Yeah. Moderation. It felt, I didn't grow up with having a lot of the games, but listen, if you go home and you sit in front of the Xbox and you're playing that and you get lost in that for a half hour, 45 minutes, whether it's with your kids or whatever, that's fine. If that gets you a break, okay, but then get back in the game.
Okay? That's good. Good.
Moderation. We can never get away. We can never get away from prayer. Okay, we can never get away from.
That's good.
And whether you're Christian, Buddhist, whatever your religion, whatever your faith is, find that space to reflect, have some internal reflection about where you're at in life, the and your health. Men,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
for goodness sakes, man, go to the doctor. Go to the doctor.
Yes, and I love that because we need to do those wellness checks and everything. You have a video for us that I want to share with our audience today. That
Sure.
definitely shares and talks about why health is so important. So, Daryl, can you show our video now?
Did you know that Black Americans have the highest death rate from heart disease in the United States? According to the CDC, 2017, nearly half of all non-Hispanic Black adults have some form of cardiovascular or heart disease. 1 in 3 African Americans will die from cardiovascular or heart disease this year. Diabetes, erectile dysfunction, sleep apnea, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, stress all relate to heart disease. Heart disease does not stop with the patient. It also impacts and destroys families. Heart disease killed my dad, Joe Coleman, and 3 of my brothers, Anthony, Joe, and Paul. At age of 54, I had open heart surgery. My passion to get better understanding of heart disease led me to write a dissertation called A Phenomenal Study with African American Male Cardiac Peer Support Volunteers. I also founded a company called Hearts and the Families to raise awareness regarding heart health and educate heart patients and their families. Please visit www.heartsandthefamily.com to learn more.
Love that. Love that.
Thank you.
Dr. Coleman, talk to us about your journey, especially dealing with the cardiovascular challenges that's running in your family, because oftentimes we don't like to look at trends. We don't like to look at, I know that high blood pressure runs in my family, diabetes runs in my family. We know that even on the mental health side, we have some bipolar that does run in our family on the male side. On both sides of the family. So these are things that I'm definitely aware of, that I try to teach my son about. But talk to us about, when you had open heart surgery, that's one of the things that said, killed your father and 3 of your brothers, and even the psychological journey that you went through yourself with dealing with this.
Yes. And first, recognizing that I had some heart issues, had a family history of it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a pain one day, and I went to the hospital, and
Right.
they said, "Oh my goodness, African American man, age
Mm-hmm.
this age, let's run and give him a battery of tests." And they said,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, everything seems okay." And they said, "Well, we'll have you follow up with another doctor." And I went through a couple of tests, and
Mm-hmm.
went through the same. Another cardiologist said the same thing. Hey, let's run these tests again, and they didn't find anything. And
Mm.
I'm thinking, okay, now something's not right here. And
Right. Right.
I said to the doctor, I said, "Doctor, you're telling me there's nothing wrong with me, but I'm standing here right now, and on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at about a 7." Okay,
Wow.
so something's not, something is
Something's
not.
wrong.
Yes. Well, you look. I mean, you're strong and healthy. I said, don't go by what I look like.
I look like, right. I'm telling you how I
Um,
feel.
yeah. So we went and we did the one other test. We shot some dye, a cath procedure into my heart, and they came back and they says, "Oh, you got 3 arteries that are severely blocked." And Marty, what I can tell you exactly where I was headed. I would have been one of those kinds of guys who came
Mm-hmm.
home at the end of the day, maybe cut the grass,
Mm-hmm.
went in, sat down at the dinner table, and
Mm-hmm.
would have checked out. Would have been gone.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and and so
Yes.
that why I say that, what I'm saying is that if there's something wrong with us, if you feel like there's something wrong, nobody knows your
Yes.
body better than you.
You.
You have to
Mm-hmm.
advocate for you. And the tough thing for men, unfortunately, we got this warrior man, little boy syndrome that cried wolf. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
if we get a pain, it scares us. It gets our attention, But then if we go to the hospital and they don't find anything, it's just like when we're playing Little League Baseball and we fell down and they said, rub some dirt in it, you'll be okay.
Right.
And so then we feel foolish for even making this fuss.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we always have to be our own advocates when it comes
That's
to our
good.
own health.
Yes.
So always push for your health. The other thing that I learned along this journey, again, men, at least from my standpoint, I had to stop blaming my wife for my problem because one of the things that men are good at, we can deflect, and we can throw guilt somewhere else.
Right.
And women, unfortunately, like to mother up, and they'll absorb that. So it's an unhealthy relationship on both parties. So I had to say to my, I had to learn, and I had actually a volunteer tell me, it's not your wife's fault that what happened to you.
Wow.
And
That's
so
good.
there's a lot of men and women probably on the call that have experienced some form of that feedback from the heart disease. One thing I did want to share, which is very important, and I'm jumping ahead again, but when I did my research on heart disease, and one of the things we found, particularly for men, why more men are not engaging in their own heart health, getting their own cardiovascular systems back together.
Right.
Because there's two things that happen. Oftentimes, one of the signs that we get when we start getting bad heart health, we get erectile dysfunction. We start, the rocket doesn't launch the way it used to when we were 15.
Right.
Okay, and so I mean, it's just a fact. And so because we're not getting the same blood flow, but oftentimes if we address those issues,
that's it.
Those things come back, and we feel like Mufasa again. Okay, yeah.
Right.
But one of the things I learned in my research is that oftentimes when that man is in the hospital and he's dealing with that, I've just been told I've got this disease. I'm scared. I don't know if I'm going to live. My life is going to change. Everything is messed up. But no one, particularly if no one on that medical staff will come back and say, hey, if you get this, if we do this surgery, if we do some of these things, you're probably going to feel better in bed. You're probably going to feel that masculinity is going to come back.
It's going to come back. Right.
It's going to come back. And so that's an important component that we need to continue to make sure that men understand that it's going to improve your health overall. Now, here was the real kicker, though. When I told my wife some of my discoveries, the first thing she said was, "You know what? All you men think about is sex. That's all you think about." And I said, "That's not true." I said, if that was true, I said, let me give you the reverse of that. Why is it that older women are so concerned if they develop breast cancer about getting reconstructive surgery?
Right. That's good.
They're not going to use, well, Mike, you don't understand. It's so that we feel our femininity, that we have to feel like a woman so I
but a man can't feel like a man. That's good.
And when I say that, Marty, it's like, the lights just came on.
The light bulb just came on. Right. Yes. But these are the healthy conversations we have to have, and that we need to have continually. And we cannot make one, men going to see the doctor. That listen, women just most men go to the doctor because you call and make the appointment and go with them, hold their hand, do whatever you got to do in that. But we also need to have healthy conversations about sex, intimacy, and it can't just be we're past 40, past the childbearing, quote unquote childbearing ages, and so sex is no. We have to have these conversations because it makes us healthier, it makes us stronger, it makes our mental health better in all areas.
Absolutely.
Yes, we got enough studies to show us that's right.
Yeah.
And Lord knows we need some balance in life.
And one of the other things that if I don't get this in, I'll be mad forever. There's
No
a saying
problem.
I always when I talk to men and women, and I'll say to women, a man's emotions are like a woman's sexuality. Neither can be approached too quickly or too fast. Now think about that for a minute, ladies.
Right.
What's the thing that we never want fellas to do? Guy comes in and he's going to be romantic, and he comes in and he's going for the mountaintop and the valley in 2 seconds, and you're like, whoa. So you don't like that. You don't. I mean, and that's not the way that we should approach, a relationship. But at the same time, if you go to a guy and you say, "Well, baby, tell me what you're thinking. I need to know all your emotions." That's a very sensitive place for us. It's not that we don't feel them. It's just that those feelings are buried so deep,
but we're not taught how to express them.
Yes. And so when they come up, and we do tell you that, and then oftentimes what happens to men, our significant others, they'll remember what we said, and then it's like an old dirty dish rag, that keeps coming back out. It's going to come back, a month or 2 months down the road. You said, well, I'll never say that again. I'll never give
because
you access.
Then we give that, they will have that flat affect and shut down. And so we have to create these wonderful conversations about this, and how do we make it a healthier topic with that. Dr. Mike, I can't believe we are just out of time already. We got to have you come back. We got to schedule something. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to have Danny come on back with us this next
Please
time
do.
as well. I think that would be great. Dr. Mike,
can we say one thing? Listen, suicide is real.
Oh, thank you.
Okay?
Yes, it is.
Suicide is real, and when someone tells you that they're thinking about it, take it serious. Please take it serious. Please take it serious. Don't ignore that. Don't ignore that. And as Black folk, we do that, and just please, suicide is a real thing, and we need to address it and pay attention and get the help that we can.
I was just watching Good Morning America yesterday, and they get some new statistics saying that since the pandemic, self-harm has increased over this past year 31%. That's a scary number. 31%. And then if we're looking at depression, I know this is about dads, but we're looking at in our adolescent young men and boys, it has increased 31% in that upper elementary and middle school, and 25% in the middle high school and college age group. And so that's alarming to me, because these are our future dads, and if they don't get treated and get the necessary help that they need, again, fathers affect the family. And now imagine what kind of father this young man will be, because he hasn't got the necessary support. Too many dads are secretly suffering in the shadow of shame. And that's why we have to say, what about dad's mental health and his emotional well-being and his psychological fortitude? We got to address these issues and make these things much better.
And I promise this is my very last thing.
You're fine.
Fellas, listen, we're coming up on the holiday seasons. Don't get caught up in the trap of overspending and overcommitting.
That's right.
To material things.
That's right.
Take the time to spend with your family. Take the time to show some love, something that will last longer than something that you
Yes.
can unwrap from Macy's. Okay, take the
Yes.
time. Take the time to really connect. We've been through a
Yes.
lot. With the last 2 years, we have been through a lot. So take the
Mm-hmm.
time. Take the time, please.
I love that. I love that because you're absolutely right, especially during these financial crisis time, because so often we build who we are as dads and fathers based upon our wallet, and that's
Mm-hmm.
does not define who a father and who a man is. Some of the best
Mm-hmm.
times that my children remember were some of the times I was financially at my worst. I had to be
Yeah.
more creative, and we spent quality time together, and those are
Mm-hmm.
the times that they remember the most. And I'm just going, are you serious? My son goes, yeah. I'm going, I was at my worst financial peak. He goes, I would not have known.
Yes.
But you're
Yes.
absolutely right. Do something great. Activate your greatness, dads. Begin to activate your greatness. Dr. Coleman, how can we follow you? And remind us, how can we get those books of yours as well?
If you go to my website, heartsandthefamily.com, you can access the site, get the books that I have available, and also communicate with me. Leave your name, and we'll get back to you. And
Wonderful.
if you have someone who's dealing with heart disease or heart issues, please share your story with us.
Love it.
There's resources available. Let us get let us get you the support that you need to get through this.
Love that. Dr. Coleman, thank you again for joining us. Listen, we're definitely going to have you back on here and doing some more with us, because we as men, my heart is for men and getting us healthy, strong, and getting us to where we need to be, especially as Black men and men of color, because again, we have to let people know that we need help, and it's okay to say, I'm not okay. So
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you. You guys know how
God
we do
bless
this.
you, man.
Listen, likewise. We want to thank Dr. Mike Coleman for coming on the show with us tonight to point out mental health challenges that we as men face, especially dads. It's all about dad. What about dad's mental health? So listen, we want to leave you some resources on what you can do and how you can reach out for help, because we never want to leave you uninformed. There are so many resources that we like to share with you today. Some of the mental health resources that you can get some help if you're looking for a therapist. If you're in crisis, you can always text crisis to 741-741. You can type help to 741-741. That is a hotline and a text line that will get you the necessary help that you need, and it's confidential with licensed therapists and trained therapists to help you along the way. Also, you can contact Psychology Today. I'm on there. I saw some other therapists on here. Paul Boucher Williams, he's on there. Thomas Davis, he's on there. Danny Ross, he's on there. We have Therapy for Black Men. Yes, there is a site specifically for Black men, therapyforblackmen.com. Good Therapy is another resource. And then, of course, you heard Hearts and sorry about that. Hearts and the Family. You can definitely see that, or my own company, marcelconsulting.com. So please check out. We want to give you the resources necessary so that you don't have to continue to secretly suffer in shame. Also, check out our website. My website there, mentalhealthmarty.com. We have some amazing merchandise on there for you so that you can, to help you along your mental health journey. We have the Stop the Stinking Thinking journal that you can have. Yes, please check out our journal on there. And Black Mental Health Matters. In other words, Black Men Matter. We have the t-shirt version, and we also have the sweatshirt. Also, we're going to be having a Black Friday sale, so check us out. And then please check out our website, and our podcast, rather, at Mental Health Matters with Marty on your favorite podcast streaming source. And then if you're an Apple listener, please give us a 5-star rating and leave us a great review. And become an iMatter member of Mental Health Matters with Marty by texting iMatter to 855-717-1272. Again, we want to thank you for joining us in this edition of Mental Health Matters with Marty and the What About Dad series. We're going to be staying here all month long talking about dads, but please join us tomorrow night as we continue the Daughters Dialogue with none other than Dr. Marguerite Story and Bishop Dr. Sean Stewart out of Houston, Texas. We are so glad that you joined us in this journey called life. We don't want you to secretly suffer in shame, in the shadow of shame. But as we always say, we want you to speak up. We want you to speak out so that you can live. And how do you do that? By enjoying your life. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless.